Hello everybody, welcome to episode 4 of Extreme Evocast. This is Lillie, your host. I want to start off by saying that I'm going in a new direction. Starting with this episode, I'm doing a new formula for this whole thing. You notice the intro was a little different. It was a little bit more low-key, a little more chill. And what I want to try to accomplish with this is to be more carefree, have it be more relaxing for both me and you. Because I realized at the beginning of the last episode, or, while I was preparing for the last episode, I was sort of stressed out about how I was going to go about things, planning out when I was going to talk about what, plan out how things are going to go, when I talk about certain things, how much I talk about a certain thing. And I feel like it was more me trying to micromanage a bunch of different topics than just talking about things. I feel like I was pressured by myself to just put out as much content as I possibly could. And I don't really want that to be what this podcast is. I want it to be more chill. For both me and you. So what I'm going to try and do is take things slower, stop being so formal about things. The intro, I can keep a good stylized intro with like the, hey everyone, I might develop it over time as things go. I'm just dipping my toes in the water with every episode and just formulating things to be more unique and get a good foothold with how I want things to go. So the last 3 episodes were more formal, they were more processed, they were a lot more planned. Not that I'm not going to come up with ideas and, things to talk about, because if I just started recording with nothing in mind, I would be lost. It would be boring. I would be tripping over myself. So grab your coffee, grab a nice blanket, get all warm and cozy, because we're going to have a nice chill time today. And I'm trying out this new formula because I want to see if I like it more, because recently, after the 3rd episode released, I've kind of been putting off doing it because it's starting to be not more of a chore, but it's certainly stressing me out more than it should. This being just like a little personal project that I do by myself, no obligation, nothing like that. I realized that that's not really the direction I want to go. I don't want to be an extremely formal thing. I don't want it to be a formal thing. I want it to be formal enough, but I don't want it to be formal to the point where there's no personality. There's no, it's too fast paced. So I'm going to be slowing things down a little bit, trying to make myself talk slower, trying to be more focused on being entertaining than spitting out as much info as I possibly can. Like I felt like I've been doing for the past 3 episodes. And I mean, in the 2nd episode, it was kind of understandable because I had a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff. And there will be episodes like that in the future. Like, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I want to get out as much as I can. I want to talk about it as much as I can. So things might be a little bit, more fast-paced, a little more planned, a little more formal. But because I realized there's not really much I want to talk about today. There's not much news. Nothing really super big is going on with Pokemon. I do have a topic that I'm discussing for today, which is Nuzlockes and how do they work? Why are they so popular? But that's for later. I'm taking inspiration, of course. I mean, this whole podcast is basically just inspiration from the Super Effective podcast. You've probably heard of it. If you're listening to Pokemon podcasts, you've probably heard of it before. I'm sure it's been recommended to you. If you like Pokemon, if you haven't, it's a very, very nice podcast. I'm not really one to be shouting them out because they're, loads more known than I am, but I can still shout them out. It's a very nice podcast, and I realized that instead of doing, like I mentioned, instead of being more fast-paced and just like info dumping, I want to be just more chill. And that's a little bit hard to do when I'm by myself, because when I have another person in the room talking with me, it's a lot more easy to just have natural conversation go, because I'm talking to the other person, and tangents can go off much easier than they would if I'm just by myself. But I'll try my hardest to just act like I'm in a conversation with somebody, but it's a one-way conversation and I'm only talking to myself, that's what I want this to be. I want this to be just super chill, super relaxing. Not like it's like, ASMR or anything that it's not supposed to be relaxing, but I want it to be chill. That's my main goal. I want it to be slower. I want it to be more chill. I want it to be in the realm of just me sitting here talking about nonsense related to Pokemon instead of scrambling around trying to fit multiple topics into an hour and 20 minutes. I want it to be more. I want to have more of a chance to explore certain topics for a longer period of time, and I want to have a chance to go into more personal things like stories or talking about things that maybe aren't even related to Pokemon. I know it's a Pokemon podcast, but I do want to go off on tangents at sometimes, explore the whole personality aspect of running a podcast, because again, I don't want it to be just like, I don't want me to be just the person telling you these things. I want to be the person who you want to listen talking about these things, and the person that you enjoy listening to talking about these things, and getting my opinion on things and all that, and not just me being like, oh, this happened, this is going on, let's talk about Pokemon stuff, that's it, see you later. I want it to be open. I want it to be very explorative for both me and you. One more thing before we get started. I know this intro is extremely long already. It's almost 8 minutes, but I do plan on making my own music in the future. I've dabbled in a few music things, not very much though, but I love to try. I think it would be a fun experience. I did do the art and stuff for the podcast, so I am experienced in that sort of medium, and I want to be more experienced in other mediums like music, and like how make my own little tune or my own little composition, cover, anything like that, of just like a Pokemon song or something, instead of being taken from somebody else. I don't think I ever mentioned the intro music is from Glitch X City. It's for the Snowbell City remix. If I'm correct about this, I am almost sure that it's fair use. That's why I'm using it. I didn't want to use something not Pokemon related, so that's why I chose that. If it's not, I might run into a few problems, and obviously I won't keep using it if it's not fair use, but I'm not 100% sure. But shout out to Glitch X City for giving me my intro and outro music. I think it fits well. I think it's a good thing for now, just to start off. Eventually I want to maybe go more of a personal direction, make my own music, maybe something related to me, something related to my likes, related to the podcast in general, and not just like some random Pokemon song, but we'll see. So I guess we can go into the news now. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about just the direction that I want to take for the podcast. I don't think so. I just want it to be me talking and not, like I said, me just trying to info dump to you all about things. I think it would be a lot more interesting and more personalized if I just go in with a vague sense of what I want to talk about and a lot of room to explore, and also talking slower, because people have told me that I talk a little too quickly. I don't want that to leak into the podcast. I don't want it to be hard to understand, hard to follow. I want it to be slow and, understandable, all that. So hopping into the news, I also do want to spend more time talking about the news. Like I said, talk about more of my personal opinions on the news, what's going on, because sometimes I just kind of relay it and then I just hop into the topic without even really going in depth of how I feel about it, like what I think is, what I think is interesting about it. So starting off, this is coming from PokeJungle on Twitter. There is Pokemon merchandise coming called Pokemon Steps. Cute little figurines with like some nice brickwork like fence with just Pokemon kind of sitting around, and they're stackable. You can like customize them, stack them up. They feature some Pokemon such as Rowlet, Pikachu, Piplup, Pichu and Cleffa, Eevee and Espeon. The more popular Pokemon. And I did retweet it on my Twitter, so if you want to take a look at that, you can. Or you can check it out from PokeJungle itself. This is coming from Rement Official, which I believe is just a I believe it's going on sale in Japan on May 28th. I'm not sure its affiliation with Pokemon and Nintendo, but I'm sure it's an official release, and I don't think that they would release it on their own terms. But hey, you never know. I think they're really cute. I was actually thinking of picking one up myself. I think, yeah. Because they're very nice looking. They look nice for decoration and all that. So there's a lot of things going on right now with Pokemon Go. Too much to really talk about. Well, I'm still going to talk as much as I can about them, but there is just... Pokemon Go is in a sort of wave where... when the game first came out, obviously, and for the first 2 or 3 years when it came out, it was very... it didn't get very many updates. It didn't get very many things going on. It was just, Pokemon. But now, props to Niantic and Pokemon for releasing so much stuff. So many things to do. There's new researches. There's new Pokemon appearing. There's more shinies coming, more raids. They constantly do events where certain Pokemon or certain types will appear more frequently, which is, everything we have to talk about today, which is just props to Nintendo for and Niantic to just constantly pouring out these new updates, balancing between college life and going out and playing Pokemon Go as much as I can whenever I'm walking from or to class, hanging out with friends, or just going out by myself. I always try to play Pokemon Go as much as possible, and I consider it one of my most played games because it's easy to just play, even if you're in the middle of something. So it's the kind of game that I don't really need to set aside free time to do. I can just do it throughout the day, and it's almost as if I put 2 or 3 hours into it because I'm just doing it throughout my day, and it's really nice because it feels like I'm never falling behind on things, and that's what I love about Pokemon Go. It feels like I can just I'm not worried about I'm not gonna have enough time to play Pokemon Go today. I'm not gonna be able to do the research tasks. It's just the kind of thing where I can just do it throughout the day if I have 5 minutes free, or I'm walking from some place to the other place, or I'm going, even if I'm just going to get food. I can just open Pokemon Go and play it while I walk there. It's a very, it's just a very like easily done thing, and it's. I'm trying to think of the word. Like it's so easy to just pick up and do every day, in a non, you don't have to worry about it, because it's like, I never think to myself like, oh, like I'm not gonna have enough time. I just go and I do it. You know what I mean? And with that, I'll go to mention what the things I'm talking about are going on. Like, for example, the LOTAD research just ended pretty recently, I believe. The LOTAD researches were research things that had LOTADs appearing more frequently, LOTAD things related to LOTAD. I'm not sure if they could be shiny. I haven't seen anybody get a shiny LOTAD, at least in the past few days when the LOTAD research tasks were, up and the LOTAD event was going on. But you could get more LOTADs, and the Pokemon Twitter even paired it with a few like interesting facts about LOTAD, Ludicolo, all that stuff, which is nice of them. I like when they give these obscure Pokemon these just, these days, like a few days with a few posts on Twitter about them and research tasks and getting people more likely to catch them and more likely to like the Pokemon, giving more attention to Pokemon that don't really get as much love, like LOTAD, for example. And similar to that, Castform might be able to still be shiny. I'm not 100% sure about that. I know that in the past few days, Castform was able to be shiny. One of my friends got one when she went to Pride, and I never got myself a shiny Castform, but I didn't even hear about it until she showed me that you could get a shiny Castform. I don't think there was like a specific event about it. I think it was just, Castform could be shiny now. Good luck. Castforms are appearing more frequently. Though I have been pretty busy recently, so I don't know if I just missed the announcement or what. But a few of my friends picked up themselves a shiny Castform, and like Castform has always been that Pokemon where it's like, okay, I got one, and then I'm never going to catch another one ever again, unless you count the other forms, like, I got one of each form, now I'm never going to catch one ever again, because there's no use to them. They're not very good, battling-wise. They don't really do anything special. They're just kind of one of the Pokemon you catch to complete the Pokedex, and if you want to catch the other forms for collection, then you can, like I did. But I'm happy that they're giving these obscure Pokemon either attention via the LOTAD, research tasks and all that stuff. Just like having more, like, basically forcing people to catch them more, because some of the research things were catch to LOTAD, and or in the Castform's case, just making it shiny and making it appear more often, so people want more, they want to catch it more. And I like that, and I like that they're doing that for these Pokemon, and they're doing it so frequently. It seems like every single week there's like a few more Pokemon that could be shiny, a few more Pokemon that are just appearing more often, a certain type that's appearing more often. It's just like, it's good because they're giving love to the whole franchise, not just Pikachu or Eevee or the starters. Like, they're giving love to all of the Pokemon, and it shows that they do care about both the Pokemon themselves and the people who like the Pokemon themselves, and like I said, props to them for catering to an audience that never really shows themselves all that much. The people who like these obscure Pokemon, and even if it's not portraying to a certain audience, it's still just widening the variety of Pokemon that you can catch and love and care for in Pokemon Go, and I really appreciate it. I think it's a great way that they can to go about things in terms of their app and, you know, the way that they're marketing the game. I think it's really, really good. I think it's healthy for the community to constantly have these new updates. So while they work on something big, they can just flood people with new things to do every day, either whether it be, you know, go out and catch a new Pokemon or try to find a shiny one, or just go out and do these research tasks. You know, it's the simple things. Like they're not huge updates. They're nothing big. It's just as simple as, hey, this Pokemon's appearing more frequently. Go out with like 4 or 5 friends and try to catch a new one. Try to catch a shiny one. You know, it's like something so simple is something that is put out so frequently, and it works. It works so well. Another thing related to that is the raids. The raids are getting constant updates every month with new Pokemon, new legendary Pokemon. This, you know, month, or not necessarily month, but this time, it's Giratina. Giratina is available. Another Giratina raid event. It seems like they're going back around, kind of looping back to raids that we've had before, because I remember I got myself 2 Giratinas when the Giratina raids were going on, and I was almost surprised to hear that they were doing Giratina again, because I don't know if there's a few other Pokemon that they haven't done yet with Hoenn and, like, you know, the new Sinnoh that just came out recently, Gen 4, but I like that they're going back to the old Pokemon. Not necessarily old, but other ones that they've done, like Giratina, for example, giving people more of a chance to go out and get them. And this is exactly what I mean. Like, they didn't have to put Giratina back into the cycle. They could have just said, "Look, you get one chance to catch a Giratina, you know, this like week or 2 weeks session where Giratina raids are going on," and then, like, nope, that's it. If they did that, nobody would, you know, have a chance to get a Giratina again. But they're putting out these Pokemon they've already done just to get people more out there. People who maybe are bored with the raids that are going on now and didn't have a chance to get themselves a Giratina. It gives them more of a challenge. They can go out with friends and conquer a legendary raid and get a Giratina, you know? It's like, it's the simplest thing ever, just like putting a raid Pokemon back into the cycle. But it helps get so many people out there, and it gets so many people into, you know, back into it and into the cycle of just going out every day and having new stuff to do with their game. It's perfect. It works really well, and I really like the way that they're going about it, because personally for me, it's getting me to go out more frequently and getting me more exercise, getting me to play more with my friends, getting, you know, it's topics to bring up in conversation, things to do when I'm just hanging around doing nothing. Which is rare nowadays, but, like, you know, if I'm ever out, if I see a Giratina raid that I haven't done, I can just do it. It's just new stuff, like, all the time, all the time, new stuff. It's like showering us with, like, quote unquote updates. They're not updates. They're just events going on. But like I said before, while they're waiting for updates to do, they can just release these things and still give people things to do in their game. It's great. Last 2 things with Pokemon Go I want to talk about are bugs. There's more bugs. Just bugs. More bug types are showing up. Not really sure the reason behind it. I think some of them might be able to be shiny, like Wurmple. I heard a rumor. I'm not sure. I don't have proof of that, so don't take that seriously. It just might be, but more bug types are appearing more frequently now, and also Ash Hat Pikachus. It was for April Fool's Day, but I think that it's like just a legit thing. You can get Ash Hat Pikachus. I haven't been able to find one myself. I'm not sure the way that you go about getting them, but it is a new Pikachu. I've been trying to get all the Hat Pikachus. I have all of them except for the new one, the Ash Hat Pikachu, and I think a few others. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at a list of them, but I'm not sure. But I've been trying to get as many as I can. Now, like, going back into the topic, I know I've been talking about this quite a bit, but just with the more bugs and the more, the Ash Hat Pikachu, like, it's just so much stuff. I almost feel overwhelmed with how much is going on with, with how many things they're releasing to us. But hey, it's a good thing. I'm not going to complain, certainly. Pokemon Go is the kind of game for me that I love. It's one of the only phone games that I've used that I've used more, like, that I actually use on a daily basis, that I use all the time. Because there's certain games where I play it for a few days and then I stop. I get bored of it. But Pokemon Go, I just can't get bored of. Pokemon Go, I play every single day. I always make sure that I focus on it, and it's just a great time passer. And I love it so much. There'll be more times to talk about Pokemon Go, I'm sure. I want to dedicate a whole episode to Pokemon Go. Probably multiple ones, because Pokemon Go is a huge part of Pokemon, and now it is, and probably even more in the future. Pokemon Go still has one of the biggest fan bases I've seen, even though it's been out for 5 years now, I think. Something like that. Probably not. I'm not sure how long it's been out. But it's been out for so long, and it's still got millions of players. It's just great. It's great. I'm not going to go off on another tangent about Pokemon Go, but you know how I feel about it. You're going to hear a lot about it maybe in the future, maybe a future episode probably just about Pokemon Go. But let's move on from Pokemon Go. I've been talking about Pokemon Go for like 20 minutes, and we got other stuff to talk about. A few other things in terms of news. Passimian and Oranguru with hidden abilities can be found in the Pokemon Bank. So if you're still using the Pokemon Bank, I don't know why you wouldn't be, but if you're still using it, you can go pick yourselves up a hidden ability Passimian and Oranguru, which is cool. I like they haven't done like a Pokemon giveaway in the Pokemon Bank for a long time. I don't even remember what the last one was, but it was a long time ago. And now I hope that it starts to become more of a tradition, that they do more of these giveaways for Pokemon Bank, because Pokemon Bank is another huge thing with Pokemon. I mean, without Pokemon Bank, there'd be a lot less that we could do in Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Moon, all those kind of games. It would be a lot harder to store Pokemon. And I like that they're rewarding people for using it. It's nice. Now, I want to take kind of a leap into the actual topic of today. A little bit more news first, but it is already almost halfway done. And I want to chill things out and talk more slow and discuss more things about certain things, but I do want to keep a good time frame. I don't want to have to rush things. Last few things, Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX from GG End has gotten released. It's a really cute card. I recommend looking it up. I wish I could show you, but this is an audio medium, so I can't show you what it looks like. But just look up the GG End trading card pack and look up their Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX card. It's really cute. Good art. I love it a lot. And last but not least, the Pokemon Sun and Moon anime is on Netflix. I know I said I wouldn't talk about the anime all that much, but I think this is a good exception. It's on Netflix. So now if you're interested in watching the Sun and Moon anime, you can watch it easily if you have Netflix. So good. I was hoping that they would do that eventually, because I've been wanting to watch it myself, and now that it's on Netflix, I guess I have a good opportunity and less of an excuse to watch it. Okay, so I want to go into the main topic today, just a little bit of an experimental topic, something small, something not super in-depth, just a little bit of a discussion, going along with the whole, chilling out thing, is Nuzlocke. Nuzlocke I thought about dedicating a whole episode to Nuzlockes, and I was worried about not having a lot to talk about. So I think that this is a good topic to discuss now when I want to stretch things out, talk more methodically about things. I think this is a good time to test it out, test the waters. Something that I don't really have a lot to talk about, but enough where I can balance it out with, the more chill, personal kind of deal we're going on here. So if you don't know what a Nuzlocke is a certain challenge that you can do in Pokemon where there's a specific set of rules. There's a lot of different kinds of Nuzlockes. I'm just going to talk about the base Nuzlocke today. Maybe we'll go into other ways of playing Pokemon in a future episode. Wink. But the original Nuzlocke challenge is that if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead, quote-unquote dead, and it either has to be released or put in the Pokemon storage system permanently. So you can't take it back out, you can't heal it, you can't use it. It's simple. It's just if a Pokemon faints, you can't use it anymore, basically. You can decide whether or not you want to release it, if you want to track your progress, keep the Pokemon for later use, after the run's over. It's up to you. I prefer to keep them in the storage system because I hate releasing Pokemon, and like I said, I want to have a good memory of the Pokemon that I've used in the run. The other big rule are you have to catch the first Pokemon encountered in an area, no matter what. And if it faints, you can't catch another Pokemon in that area. There's no second chances. If you find a Pokemon in an area that you've already used, like if it's a duplicate, some challenges I've seen make it so either you just don't catch it or you get to try again. I like to do the get to try again, but that's just my own personal preference. I like having a big variety of Pokemon to use. But of course, like once you try again, if it's another Pokemon and it faints, you can't use it. I just like to give myself a little bit of leeway to make it more entertaining for me to, have more fun. But you can be hardcore if you want to. It's up to you. It's very, very lenient with the rules. You don't even have to do certain rules if you don't want to. It's not like a actual challenge in the game. It's simply just a fun fan challenge. So Nuzlockes for me have always been really fun. I've done quite a lot of them, more than I can remember. I've probably done one in every game. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I've probably done at least one Nuzlocke in every main series Pokemon game. They're just that fun, and I love it. It totally changes the entire way that you play Pokemon, because you have to be very, very careful with what Pokemon you send out, what moves you use. You have to be careful about training. You have to be careful about, you actually have to be extremely careful about like when you progress, how long you spend training, all that kind of stuff. There's some more hardcore rules where you can't use healing items, which is a extremely hardcore method, or you have to only use like a Pokemon Center once or something like that. People use that to make it harder for themselves, which is valid. I just prefer to use the easier rules because I like to actually enjoy myself a little bit while I do it and not make it super stressful. There's one Nuzlocke in particular that I did a while ago. It was in Pokemon Y, and I just remember it being really, really fun. It was super hard because, Pokemon Y is usually really easy, but I made it a lot harder for myself in Pokemon Y. I just remember so many of my Pokemon dying, and like I struggled so much. I remember I had like 10 or so Pokemon, or like a full team of like 6 Pokemon that I was really happy with. Like I felt like they were going to last for a really long time. And then as soon as I got to the second gym, I lost like 3 Pokemon and I was immediately pushed back like super far, and I had to spend so much time grinding, and it was so stressful. Like that game can be really hard when you really challenge yourself for it. I also remember doing a Nuzlocke a while ago that was kind of an interesting rule set, and I really recommend doing this if you are looking for something new to do. If you've done a lot of Nuzlockes and you want something new, I had a group of friends, and I gave them, like, I told them what game I was using. I believe it was Omega Ruby, and what I did was I had them look through a list of Pokemon, and I chose like 20, 30 Pokemon, and I had my friends pick out Pokemon for me to use throughout the game. Like they looked through a list of the Pokemon, they chose like round robin 30 or so Pokemon for me to use, and like instead of catching every Pokemon that I find on each route, I thought it would be more fun to include my friends and kind of emphasize the connections that you make with your Pokemon throughout the Nuzlocke, which is why it's so like emotionally endearing and stressful, because you make these bonds with these Pokemon, and then you know when they faint, you can't use them anymore, and it's essentially like throwing away a friend, and it's really stressful. But I thought it would be a lot more stressful if I put the weight on my friends as well. I know that sounds harsh, but I would give the connection to them as well as myself, so when one of my Pokemon died, you know, their Pokemon died as well, and you know they took the emotional damage from losing one of the Pokemon. Like a lot of my friends were really into it. They would feel very sad when one of my Pokemon died, and it honestly made the game a lot more fun when I included my friends in the emotional damage that comes with Nuzlockes. But in a way, that's actually what I really like about Nuzlockes. I think that I think that the challenge is what makes it so appealing to people, and how fun, difficult, and sometimes, you know, disheartening it can be to lose so many Pokemon that you were so attached to. It's certainly a difficult thing to deal with when you're super late in the game. I mean, even just not from an emotional standpoint, but from a gameplay standpoint as well. Like, I remember on most of my Nuzlockes, I would be doing really well, and all of a sudden, I would lose like 2 or 3 of my super high level Pokemon, and then I would only have backup Pokemon that were lower level, and I'd have to spend so much time grinding them up, or else I would risk losing another Pokemon, because you need a strong team to support yourself so you don't lose more Pokemon. And if a Pokemon that's strong ends up fainting, you're going to have to replace them almost immediately, because it would be more risky to go on with low level Pokemon, because they would die easier and they wouldn't be able to support your team very well. So it's kind of it's almost like a new game. It feels like a new game to me whenever I do it. I've done it in almost every Pokemon game, and it's an experience, depending on what game you want to go for. I recommend doing it on a game that's already pretty easy, like Sun and Moon or X and Y. And if you're a real Pokemon veteran and you really want to go through with it in a really difficult game, like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, arguably, or one of the older games where, like the first gen or second gen, where it's a little more harsh, I think that doing that would be really entertaining. And if you haven't done a Nuzlocke challenge already, I highly recommend it. So we're going to take a little bit of a break from talking about Nuzlockes to go into the first segment of the week, which is, of course, Random Pokemon of the Week. This week's random Pokemon is a Grass Fairy Pokemon from Generation 7. It is the evolved form of Morolol. If you haven't been able to guess already, it is, of course, Shiinotic, or however you pronounce it. Shiinotic is the illuminating Pokemon. It is number 756 in the National Pokedex. It evolves from Whirlwill starting at level 24. Nothing really else much to say about Shiinotic. It's just another fairy Pokemon added in Gen 7, which there are quite a lot of fairy Pokemon added in Gen 7. I mean, they really needed to, because Gen 6 introduced fairy types, but they didn't really add all that many. A lot of them were just Pokemon from past generations that were turned into fairy type Pokemon like Clefairy or Jigglypuff. And I'm glad that they added so many new fairy types with Gen 7. I think it really fits the just the whole aesthetic of Alola and stuff. I really like Shiinotic's design, because we don't really have many mushroom Pokemon or Pokemon designed around, fungi, anything like that. And I like, because with like Paris and Parasect, Shroomish and Breloom, they're more focused on like the poisonous aspect of fungi and mushrooms. But I like Shiinotic and Whirlwill because they're focused more on the kind of like the fairy and magical essence, I suppose, that comes with mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. Like talking about like fairy rings, where like a circle of mushrooms was believed to be like a ring for fairies. Shiinotic is one of the more forgettable Pokemon, and that makes me kind of upset because, like I said, I really like its design. I think it's a really nice design. I like its big head, or like I like how it's just like a tiny little like stalk body, and then the rest of its head is just the huge mushroom. A little bit of fun facts about Shiinotic. This is coming from Bulbapedia, of course, but Shiinotic and its pre-evolution are the only Pokemon that can have Rain Dish and can't learn Rain Dance. Rain Dish being its hidden ability, which it gains back a 16th of its HP when it's raining. So if you're going to use Shiinotic with its hidden ability, you better have another Pokemon with Rain Dance, because it can't learn it. So it has no way, it has a good way of recovering with rain, but it has no way of actually initiating that rain. Shiinotic, its shiny form, I actually really like. It looks odd though. It's like it replaces the light pink with like a dark brown, and the purpley color with like a bright yellow. And I always thought it looked like a Boston cream donut or something like that. Something like creamy and chocolatey, like an eclair or something. Especially with the yellow coloring and the white of Shiinotic's body. So I give it a... it's hard. It's a really hard rating, because it looks really good, but at the same time, I think it looks really weird. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I think 6 out of 10 is a good rating for Shiinotic Shiny. It's not great, but it's creative. Definitely could have been worse, but it also probably could have been better. Now on to the competitive aspect of Shiinotic. Shiinotic is a PU Pokemon. Its stats aren't fantastic, with its high stat being special defense at 100, its speed being monstrously low at 30. I mean, it makes sense because it's a mushroom, but its attack is very bad. Its special attack is it's nothing to sneeze at, but it's only 90. Obviously, this is more of a special attacker, as grass fairy types tend to be, or grass and fairy types tend to be. But overall, its stats really aren't anything great. It's officially untiered on Smogon, but people normally use it in PU as a defensive Pokemon, having Spore, Strength Sap, Moonblast, and Giga Drain, kind of a special attacker focused on healing itself with Giga Drain and Strength Sap and paralyzing the opposing Pokemon to kind of gain back its XP, being a physical bulk. But it's outclassed by Pokemon like Tangela or even Tangrowth, with its grass type being physically bulky grass type. So it's a little sad. It kind of has other Pokemon that does its job much better, but the best item for it is Leftovers. Best ability is Effect Spore, which isn't really great. I think that's just because Shinodic doesn't really have anything better. Bold Nature, 248 HP EVs, 252 defense EVs, and 8 speed EVs. It doesn't seem amazing. It's just kind of one of those PU Pokemon that has another Pokemon that does its job better than it does, which is unfortunate. So what I want to do for the rest of the episode is talk about a little bit more about Nuzlockes, talk about a few more things, and then I want to hop into the last segment for the episode, and then probably wrap things up there. This episode is most likely going to be a little bit shorter than normal, mostly because last episode was a lot longer. Plus, this episode is a lot more experimental than the last 3 have been, so I want to kind of keep it to a minimum so I can get some good feedback on it. So, with Nuzlockes, I wanted to briefly discuss Nuzlockes as a YouTube series, because there is a lot of YouTube series in the past that were pioneered by Nuzlockes. A lot of YouTubers, a lot of PokeTubers did Nuzlockes on their channel, such as Munching Orange is a really good example, one that I used to watch when I was younger, as well as more recently, A-Drive is another very good example of someone who does lots of themed Nuzlockes, like Buglocks, Shiny Locks, all that kind of jazz. And I feel like without that, Nuzlockes would be a lot less popular than they are now. I feel like popular YouTubers who did Pokemon content doing Nuzlockes became the norm and became something that almost everybody jumped on the bandwagon of. And it really did good. I remember, like, I don't think they ever really did bad. I think lots of people loved watching a lot of PokeTubers doing Nuzlockes, and it's just a very enjoyable thing to do yourself and also watch other people do, because you yourself get very invested in the Pokemon, and it creates for really good video when somebody's Pokemon, beloved Pokemon that have been alive for the whole series dies unexpectedly, and it can really bring in the watchers and create kind of like a big event for the series that brings in more people. It's kind of it's almost a series that has almost like clickbaity things, not necessarily clickbaity, but like big events that mark the whole series as a whole. Big events that have people come in and watch, that people almost look forward to. They know it's coming, or they know it might happen. Things that people can discuss when the series happens. It's just sort of like, in YouTube series, when it's the norm, when it's just like a video game let's play, something like that, which used to and still is a large part of YouTube. People usually came for interesting and unique things, and unique things in a beloved Pokemon of a series literally dying and not being able to be used anymore is one of those big events that would bring in a lot of people and really solidify the series as a whole, if that makes sense. That's why I think Nuzlocke work really well, because it's also a big challenge. It's a unique challenge. People can put millions of different rules on it. They can play however they want. They can do it with other people. They can do cage locks, egg locks, lots of different rule sets, monotypes, anything that they please, anything that they think is interesting, anything they want to do. People could even request them. It's a big, and it's not as big as it should be, in my opinion. It's sort of a subset, like a subcategory of YouTube videos. And it's a little bit unfortunate that it's not super popular in a lot of really popular YouTubers, but in the Pokemon community, it's pretty much a staple. Like, go to any famous Pokemon YouTuber that plays games on their channel, whether it be shiny hunting or making Pokemon news videos or anything like that, and look to see if they have any Nuzlockes on their channel. I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have some form of Nuzlocke, either going on right now or in the past or anything, because Nuzlockes are such an easy thing to do. There's something interesting to do after, they've used up their Pokemon playthrough, time. If they're tired of just playing normal Pokemon playthroughs, or their viewers are tired of them just playing Pokemon playthroughs, they can mix it up and do pretty much anything that they see fit for their channel and for what they want to do or for what the viewers want to see. There's so many different kinds of rules that you can do with Pokemon challenge mode. Challenges for Pokemon games, not just Nuzlockes, even other subsets of challenges fall into the same category as Nuzlockes, and I think they're worth a mention. Like I said, like monotype teams, stuff like that are very good for attracting people's attention and keeping good, unique, variety in videos. And I mean, I've never done it myself, but I mean, obviously it's been working for a lot of famous YouTubers because, like I said, so many of them do Nuzlockes, and I think that Nuzlockes are like, they've just grown the Pokemon community more than what it already is. I mean, think about if Nuzlockes never became a thing, people wouldn't be doing these challenge, these Pokemon challenges, and maybe it would dry out a little bit of the uniqueness that's with Pokemon and how it's played and how unique and customizable the Pokemon games already are. It's more of a unique spin on what is already an extremely customizable game, and I think that's why they're so popular and so much fun. So wrapping things up a little bit here, I wanted to end it with the final segment of the episode, which is a segment that we introduced last episode, which I am super into doing. I really like this. It sort of falls into the same category as Random Pokemon of the Week, with something new and interesting to talk about every week. It is, of course, Move Tutor, the segment where I talk about a random move every week. So this week's move for Move Tutor is going to be Double Hit. Double Hit is a normal type physical move that was introduced in Generation 4. It is a 35 power move that essentially just hits twice. It's just a normal type move like Pound or Scratch or any other physical normal type move, but it hits twice. Its uses aren't really anything out of the ordinary from normal physical moves, but the double hit mechanic does do a few things differently than some from the one hit moves. Like, for example, each strike has an equal chance to be a critical hit, meaning that you could get a crit with both hits. It's essentially just a multi-hit move that has a little bit more power than, like, say, Fury Swipes or Twin Needle or anything like that. It's just always guaranteed to hit 2 times, which can be useful for damage output. It's usually a early game move. It's not really something you see later. There's a lot of other better multi-hit moves that do much better than double hit. Then again, like, normal type moves aren't necessarily extremely good in the first place, so I think that double hit is kind of outclassed by some other moves, but it does do some interesting things. Abilities that activate upon contact, each strike counts individually, like, or for example, things like Rocky Helmet, or Rough Skin, like Garchomp's Rough Skin. It does inflict the user twice, which is more of a negative than a positive, but that's just what it does. With the King's Rock and the Razor Fang, each move does have an extra chance to flinch, so it's good for Pokemon with, like, say, Serene Grace, with like a Razor Fang. or a king's rock, flinching is a powerful thing. So, that can be a pretty good strategy, I suppose. The only really other thing that is interesting about this move is that Aipom needs to know it to evolve into Ambipom when leveled up. If Aipom is leveled up with double hit, it evolves into Ambipom, which is more of a lore thing because of the two tails, but it's nothing really special. It's just sort of a double hit move. It's like double kick, but a normal type. That's really it, honestly. Not really much else to say about this move, maybe other than the fact that it's not a TM, HM, or a move tutor move. It's only learned by level up and breeding and all that. Sort of a anticlimactic and uninteresting move to feature on the second episode of Move Tutor. But I mean, what did you expect? If we're going to be doing random moves every episode, there's going to be a few that are, extraordinary with signature moves and all that. And then, we may as well give some attention to some of the lesser used or lesser known moves, like double hit, for example. In Japanese, it's known as double attack. I'm just sort of milking it for anything that I can find interesting about this move, but I think that's about everything we can say about double hit. I can't think of anything else. So before we wrap things up, I do just want to say that I hope you enjoyed listening. Again, I'm trying out something new with this episode, trying to be a little bit more chill, at least in the beginning of the episode. I'm not super worried about being less chill later in the episode with talking about the actual topic at hand. I think that can be more that can be more energetic and trying to info dump because I will try my hardest to talk about more personalized things, but I do want to talk about quite a bit in this podcast. But my overall goal is to make it more chill, more relaxing, more just not too confusing, and just less stressful for me, really. So I can go in with a fresh mind, not like a super cluttered, list of things that I need to talk about for this episode, and sort of just a general idea, which is what I had for this episode. I only had 5 lines of notes for the Nuzlocke section, and I mean, hey, I ended up talking about it for a good 35-40 minutes, and I think that's what I want. I want it to be something that I'm not just info dumping about, and I want to be able to talk about my own feelings about things and, put a more personalized spin on it. And same goes for the news as well. I'm actually really happy with how the news came out today. I want to do things more like that in the future. I mean, I talked for almost half an hour about Pokemon Go, or at least 20-15 minutes about Pokemon Go, and that was just in the news section. And I want to go off on tangents more like that, because I think that's what makes things more enjoyable. I don't want to go off too far for too long, because then it'll distract from the main interest of the episode. But I do want to go off more on things than I did in the last 3 episodes, and sort of create just a very pliable experience, something that you never really know what to expect, because if it's just news and then talking about something for 40 minutes, then it's gonna get kind of boring after a while, because I'm just gonna be talking about things. But if I mix it up, be more just chill, relax about it, and go off more about things, I feel like that's gonna be more of a good opportunity to bring in more experiences into the podcast. So that's gonna be it for me for this week. You can find Extreme Evocast on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. My YouTube and Twitter is at Lillieceon, Lillieceon. I post, my Twitter is for my personal things, and the YouTube channel is where I upload episodes of Extreme Evocast. And I do have an Extreme Evocast Twitter, which you can find linked on my personal Twitter. If you're not already, I recommend following the Twitter, because you can get updates, you can get reblogs from things that I talk about during the episode. For example, the the new step merchandise. I reblogged a picture of it, or the post that I mentioned in the episode. I reblogged it so you can check it out for yourself, so you can actually see what it looks like instead of just hearing me talk about it. And I plan on doing that in the future too, as well as updates and descriptions of new episodes to come. So that's going to do it for me for this week. This has been Lillie, your host, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.